So today we're going to be doing a review on something that is an absolute game changer. And that is the Gideon Optics Judge XL Green Dot. Let's have some fun. So I want to take a quick break and give a big shout out to my friends over at Fat Tack. And if you are a big guy like me, Fat Tack's got you covered. They've got shirts, shorts, swim trunks, hats, you name it. And they even have awesome holsters that are specifically made for bigger guys. So if you want to help out the channel, head over to Fat Tack, pick up some Chris from the 740 merch, and while you're there, check out all the other cool stuff that they offer, and check out the influencer store, because not only is Fat Tack supporting me, they are supporting a lot of other awesome content creators. Alright, we're over on the other bench. Let's go over the packaging real quick. This is the top of the box. We'll look at the sides here. And on all your Gideon Optics on this side, this is going to have your specs, and then this is going to show you whether or not this is the green dot version or the red dot version. This obviously is the green dot version, and I also have the red dot version, but we're going to be doing the review with this Judge XL in the green dot version. Now your box top just lifts off. We have a Gideon Optics sticker, the owner's manual. This is the other side, a lens cleaning cloth, your foam padding. We have the optic wrapped in plastic. We're going to set that off to the side. Right here is where your CR1632 battery goes. I already have that installed. We have a wide array of different screws. Nice little touch right there. You have a flathead screwdriver and the Torx wrench. And that is everything in the box. All right, here is our Judge XL. Let's take a look at this. Here is the front, the other side, and the back. Now, at the beginning of the video, I said that this was a game changer, and let me show you why. Look how big that window is. This window is 28 millimeters by 22.5 millimeters. Which is a nice big competition style dot. But what is so cool about this optic has the RMSC footprint. So look how small the base on this optic is. But then you have this big massive window. And you might be asking yourself, well, why do you think this is a game changer when it comes to optics? Well, that is because the majority of your double stack 1911s, 2011s, 2311s, whatever you want to call them, they are all cut for the RMSC footprint. And normally when it comes to RMSC dots, you are stuck with a very small window, but that is not the case with the Judge XL. Now this does come with an adapter for a 1913 rail, so if you want to use this on a rifle or a shotgun, you can. Alright, let's go over some quick specs. We've got an overall length of 50.6 millimeters. It is 32.4 millimeters wide and 32.7 millimeters tall. This has a very low deck height of 8.5 millimeters, and this weighs in at 1.16 ounces. Now the housing on this is 7075 T6 aluminum. It does have an IPX7 waterproof rating, and it is shockproof up to 1200 Gs. Alright, I got the dot turned all the way up, and just like the Storm, this is insanely bright. Now I am getting a little bit of starbursting. There's nothing wrong with the dot. It's just because I have astigmatism. And once I turn the dot down a little bit, most of that starbursting goes away. But I must say this looks really good. Now this 6 MOA dot does have 10 brightness settings, 8 daytime settings, and 2 NV. Now your brightness level adjustments are here on this side. You do have an arrow pointing up and an arrow pointing down. They feel very tactile, they're very audible. They are very small due to the small deck height and being that this is an RMSC footprint dot. Once we get this mounted up on what we're going to use it on, we will see if this causes any issues. Now this does have a side load battery. It does run on a CR1632 battery. You will remove this flathead screw, pull out the tray, and you can replace the battery. Now this does have shake awake. It will go to sleep after 225 seconds. As soon as you grab whatever it is mounted on or tap the dot, it will come right back on. Now, as far as battery life goes, I cannot find anything on the website that gives me an exact time of the battery life, but being that it is a side load battery and it does have shake awake, it will not be an issue. Just change your battery once a year, and due to the fact that it's side load, you're not going to lose zero when you change the battery. Now, one thing that I like to do in all these optic review videos is test out our windage and elevation. I want to see how tactile and how audible the clicks are. Let's start with the windage. Oh, nice. Very tactile, very audible. Check our elevation, and the same with the elevation. That is very nice. Now, your adjustments are 1 MOA per click. You will get 45 MOA of total travel on your windage, and the same on your elevation. And the last thing I want to go over, this does come with Gideon Optics lifetime guarantee. Let's head out to the range and have some fun. So normally when I get to the range and I get the optics sighted in, I like to shoot a few 10-shot groups, but I was dealing with winds between 20 and 25 mile an hour. And either my targets were blowing off the stands or my stands were blowing over. So 10-shot groups were definitely not going to happen today. All right, target on the left. We've got all alphas. We've got all our hits on steel. Next target, we've got all alphas, but we've got 3 Charlies. And our next target, we've got all alphas and 3 Charlies again. We've got all our hits on steel. And our last target, we've got 2 alpha, 2 Charlie. Now the first thing I noticed right out of the gate was how nice the glass was on the Judge XL. It was super clear, no blue tint, and the window is absolutely massive. And what a change, going from the original Judge to the Judge XL on my EAA Gerson Match X. All right, target on the left. We got all alphas. We got all our hits on steel. That's nice. Next target, all alphas. All right, the next target, we've got 6 alphas and 3 Charlie. All our hits on steel. And our last target, we've got all alphas and 1 Charlie. Alright, so let's start talking about how awesome this optic is and why a gun like this Match X needs an optic like this. So when it comes to this Match X or any other double stack 1911, 2011, 2311, whatever you want to call it, most of these guns have the RMSC footprint. And the problem with having the RMSC footprint, that means the majority of all those dots are going to be quite small, like the original Judge that I have on my Influencer X. Now, when you put both of these dots side by side, that'll give you an idea of how much bigger the window is on the XL versus the original Judge. So in the past, when you wanted to run a bigger window optic with an RMR footprint on a gun like this, you had to use a plate to go from the RMSC footprint to the RMR footprint, and now you've added a fail point to your gun because optic plates suck. Now I have a lot of guns just like everybody else that use optic plates, and some of them work great and others not so much. But at the end of the day, it's always better to direct mount your optic right to the slide than using an optic plate. So just for another size comparison, I went and grabbed two of my guns that have two of the biggest optics that I have with the RMR footprint. And the first one would be the Gideon Optics Omega, which is an SRO style red dot. And as you can see, the Judge XL has a lot bigger window than the Omega. And then I grabbed my Grizzly that has the Zulisi Oak Plus, which is pretty much the king of the big windowed optics. And as you can see, the Oak Plus is just a little bit taller, but the Judge XL is still wider. So we've already talked about how nice the glass is, how clear the glass is. Let's talk about the green dot itself. Now, if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, everybody knows that I prefer a green dot over a red dot. I get a lot less starbursting with a green dot than I do with a red dot because I do have pretty bad astigmatism. But one thing that I really want to give Gideon Optics props on is how bright this dot is. This dot is insanely bright. Now, I have not got the red dot version out of the box yet to see how bright it is, but I will say that this green dot is extremely bright and I couldn't be happier with it. Now, when we were doing the unboxing, we were talking about how small the controls are here on the side to adjust your brightness level up and down. And I wanted to wait till we got it mounted on something to see if that was going to cause a problem, and it doesn't cause any issues at all. The dot is still hanging over the slide just a little bit, and it's very easy to get to the brightness controls. One other great thing about this optic is that it does have a very low base on it. And even though it is a competition style dot, they still put a backup set of sights on the optic, which is a good thing because when you take the optic cover plate off of the Match X, you do lose the rear sight. And being that they made the base so low on this, I am able to co-witness the rear sight on this optic with my front fiber optic sight on the Match X, which is a good thing because if my dot goes down, I have a backup set of sights. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the shake awake on this. And I'm doing something new on the channel now. I'm not testing the shake awake until I actually get home from doing the range review because I want to get 200 or 300 rounds on the optic of that thing violently going back and forth, getting bounced around to make sure that the shake awake still functions. And I am pleased to say that the shake awake on this is working great. Now, on the website, it says it takes about 225 seconds for the dot to shut off, and I will say that that is right on par with what I was getting. So let's go over some pros and cons with this optic. We're going to go ahead and hit the con first, and yes, I said con because I only had one thing happen with this dot, and I don't even know if we necessarily want to call it a con because I'm just as much to blame for this as Gideon is with this optic. Now, when I got this optic out of the box, the battery was already installed. And as you can see here in the footage, while I was shooting, my dot went out, and I looked down, and my battery tray was open. And that little tiny flathead screw fell out into the gravel, which you're never going to find it. And obviously, the dot was down. Now, I wanted to finish the review, so I went ahead and robbed the screw from the Valor Mini and put it in this, which worked fine. And I shot another 100 rounds through the gun, and I noticed that that screw was loosening up a little bit. Now, out of all the optics that I've reviewed on this channel, I have never had one of those screws back out and fall out like that. I've lost screws when I've been replacing batteries, but I've never had a screw fall out yet on a battery tray door. So this is one of those live and learn moments where I do believe from now on I am going to put just the slightest dab of blue Loctite on my battery door screws, because obviously I don't want this to happen again. So now let's get into the pros of this dot, and I've pretty much went over all of them throughout this video, but this dot is absolutely awesome. This is what we needed for the double stack 1911, 2011, 2311 market. We've been stuck with these small RMSC footprint dots for a long time, and now we've got something like this, and that just kind of changes everything. A lot of people use these types of guns for competition use, and nobody really wants to shoot competitions with a very small window when they can have something like this. And all I can say is, Mike over there at Gideon, you are a damn genius. One other thing that we didn't talk about was getting this optic sighted in was super easy. It only took, I think, around 4 shots. The windage and elevation worked exactly the way they should. And obviously, after about 250, 300 rounds today, we did not lose 0. And about every 50 rounds or so, I would check the optic to make sure that it wasn't coming loose, and it did not. And I was also adjusting the brightness level up and down just to make sure that it was still working, and we had no issues with that as well. So at the end of the day, if you have a double stack 1911, 2011, or 2311, I highly recommend you get one of these optics. And the super cool thing with Gideon, if you prefer a red dot, they have a red version, and if you prefer a green dot, then you can get this one that I have right here. And speaking of picking one of those up, you can always go to my website, scroll down to the weekly deals section, and there is always a link in there to Gideon Optics, and there might even be a discount code there to save some of your hard-earned cash. So that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.